name is Toto Chipeta. I'm a permaculturist and a Pan-Africanist. I live in Erangau, which is in Kajiado East. Basically, in permaculture, it's a holistic way of living. It's not just about farming, but also you integrate your housing, your energy, how you also get your water. So for example, myself, when I started permaculture, I didn't really understand what it was, but I realized that you have to integrate different systems that you have. How you live in your house, how you produce your waste, how you produce your food, and then you also have to be, there are the ethics of permaculture whereby there's the people share, there's the fair share, and the earth share, whereby you care for your environment in a way that is sustainable, where you take less than you give. I have the mint, which is very good, especially if you want to make a herbal infusion, which is very easy to make. You just chop off the leaves, and then at the end of the day, you just throw them in boiling water. And I also have ginger growing. Most people usually say they don't have gardens, but you can actually grow your ginger inside. I used a can like that, and it's usually very good. And as you can see, also cloves are growing, and the cloves are usually quite good. They are quite edible. You can always eat them. And then also have a pond here, which when it rains and we have good rains, I'm able to use this water and be able to put it on the bananas and all the other fruit trees that I have around here. So it's an element having more than one function, and that's one of the things about permaculture. You don't just have an element that has only one function. At the time when I heard about permaculture, I didn't really know what it was. I was only interested in growing tomatoes and onions and the like, and I was just thinking about production. But later on, there's a teacher by the name of Thiongo who told me that there's a way that you can do it in a way that is holistic, but you don't look at the production first. You look at creating a system whereby at the end of it all, you'll be able to use less energy, but it's not something that is like one moment and then you start harvesting. It takes time, 3-4 years, and then the system, when it's working, now you can reap the benefits.
My name is Thiongo Gashie. I come from Laikipia, Kenya. I work as a permaculture consultant and trainer. My work involves training communities and people on how to start up gardens, maybe kitchen gardens, community gardens, school gardens, so that they can provide for themselves healthy, organic and fresh food.
I was tired about the way that I was taught about agriculture, whereby you have to plant every season and then you harvest. Then you plant, you harvest. And at that time, I was just planting one type of crop or two, maize and beans. And then most of the time, there are a lot of pests and diseases because the system is not natural. So when I got to hear about permaculture from my teacher, he came for 2 days and then he taught me. And then I started learning slowly, but it doesn't mean that immediately told me about permaculture, I started. It took me some time to embrace it.
In a nutshell, permaculture is a sustainable design system whereby we produce for our own needs. And this is because the way the current lifestyle people are living, we become more consumers than producers. So we find that there's this rush for money because most of the things that we need to use money to buy them. But then in permaculture, you can design your own life whereby you produce your own food, you harvest your water, you conserve your energy, you recycle your waste. So that way you live more sustainably, and then you have a smaller footprint, be it carbon or even using less resources and producing more.
We have an improved stove here. Basically, for lunch, guys, we're going to have some maize and some njahe, which is black-eyed peas, and some pigeon peas, which is very nutritious, and you'll definitely enjoy it. It wasn't easy for me to transition. Basically, it takes time. I think it starts in the mind, basically anything that you're doing. So for me, first it started in the mind. I thought about it, and I looked how it would be later on, let's say 2-3 years. So it began here, and once I'd accepted it in my mind, now it became just easy now doing the physical work.
Most people take up permaculture as a design method, and then a design method to design their garden, but then after that becomes a lifestyle, whereby not only are you producing your own organic and food within your doorstep or not long from where you live, but then to encompasses also about energy. What kind of energy are you using? You can use solar energy, you can use wind energy, but you're not paying energy bills. And then you can also use biogas. on water, instead of depending on the municipal water, you can harvest your own rainwater that you're not paying bills for water. From there, instead of throwing out your waste, then you can recycle all these waste, make compost, or feed your chickens or pigs. So that way you are recycling on your nutrients and not throwing away and then being a problem to the environment. So it's a holistic design methodology apart from only growing food. You can do lots of other things with permaculture.
These are the sweet potato leaves, and they're very, very, very good, and they're very edible. You just fry them. They're called kalembla or ngwashe, and they are very nutritious to eat. And next to it, I have, of course, I did some washing today. I have my compost toilet. Basically, I've just used 200-liter drums. I put them inside. So at the end of it all, I take the ash from the jiko, and then I just sprinkle a few. And then what happens, there's no smell. And then also I've planted some trees around here, some loquats and some bananas. So basically, it really does a very good job. And this is the pastane I was talking about, the duckweed. It's very good, and it has lots of vitamins and antioxidants, and it makes a very good salad and vegetable. Very sweet. One of the benefits I've seen, before I started, I never had anything like earthworms or lots of bees. Mostly I had a few rats running around. But later on, when I looked at my soil, I had centipedes, millipedes, and then certain species of birds. So you could actually come and sit where I'm sitting now and be able to see the birds chirping and playing and everything else. And it's usually very beautiful because those are pollinators and they work to help your system. And without those pollinators, basically you cannot be able to have permaculture. So those are some of the benefits that I've seen with the new species of animals that have come, and also certain plant species, like for example purslane, which is known as duckweed. I've seen it here, and it's also a very good vegetable. So those are one of the benefits that I've seen, and also certain pesticides that I have. We have what I was talking about, the different type of pesticide you can use. This is known as mfangi in Kikuyu, or it's known as Mexican marigold. If you take some Mexican marigold and then you interact it with this is the blackjacks, and you put with some blackjacks, you crush it together, you can make a very good pesticide. And all you can just add is a little bit of neem, the neem tree. I'm now using less money on buying commercial pesticides because I know you can be able to use the neem tree. Yeah, so if you add, this is the neem, the different neem species. So you add a bit of neem, some blackjack, and of course the Mexican marigold, and you crush them together. Later on you sieve it, then it makes a very good pesticide, and it will avoid you using commercial feeds, not commercial feeds, but commercial pesticides, which at the end of the day usually degrade our environment. Basically, one of the design principles when you're doing permaculture, the first one is observe and interact. Unfortunately, at the first time when I started, before I did permaculture, I was just planting them. I wanted to have a mango, an orange, a banana, different type of fruit trees. But later on I realized that each tree that you plant must benefit the other. It's like in war. So each tree has to be able to either provide a shade or nitrogen fixing, or probably it's a pollinator or a mineral accumulator. So what happened is that with time, now I started realizing that yes, I could have maybe a few roses here because they act as pollinators. I could have a bit of churanda tree there. But a number of trees that I have and herbs, for example, I could just name a few, is let's say I've got the mango, the orange, the banana, the neem tree, which is very good, and also aloe veras. And apart from the other herbs that I have, which are very helpful, are things like moringa, because moringa is one of the miracle trees or plants that you can use. And also it's very good, especially for fighting certain diseases. And it also makes very good, good cover for other smaller plants. Your swells are supposed to be able to hold water. When it rains, it's supposed to be able to capture the water here, and then it slowly seeps into the fruit trees and the like, and it's usually very good because you should not let the water run out of your shamba or your farm, because that causes soil erosion. That's why you have to make sure that your farm is covered by mulch as much as possible. I've tried to mulch it as much as I can, but I can still do a better job. And each time when I harvest the sorghum, I should always mulch it, and it comes out very beautifully. Basically, permaculture is not difficult. What happens is that most people think big, which is good, but they also want to start big. In permaculture, you have to start small, but you think big, so that you put where your house is, let's say that's zone 1, and then you have a small kitchen garden. And then as you grow into permaculture and you understand how the system works, that's when you can introduce one more tree, or maybe a herb or a shrub, and then later on you're able to integrate it in the rest of your system. This is a 1-acre piece of land, and when I started about, let's say 4 years ago when I moved here, I did not start with permaculture. Permaculture started, let's say, about 1.5 years ago. So when you plant one tree, you try and give it the nourishment that it needs. It's like a baby. You don't have like 5-10 babies at once. So you have one, and then later on when that one grows and you nurture it and you give it all the nourishment, then now you can have another one. But it's very important in permaculture to be able to observe and interact, get that feedback from your environment. It's not just about planting trees, then you say you're practicing permaculture. Because if you just plant trees, probably you could be monocropping. So you have to be able to do it in quite an intelligent way, and always get the feedback from nature. Don't look from your neighbors to tell you. Look at the soil quality, look at the microclimate you've created. So if you have 1 acre, don't do the whole 1 acre. Just start with a small portion, and later on you'll find that it's doable. For the other herbs that I have, this is sage. It's very good, especially when you're making your dishes, or be it meat dishes, or maybe you're making eggs, or you're eating vegetables as I usually do. And you also have some lavender, which is very good, especially if you boil it and then use it to take a bath with it. It's usually very good. The lavender and the sage, these are very good aromatherapeutic herbs. And on this other side also have a few more herbs. If you come this side, okay. Here we have rosemary. Yeah, they say it's very good for memory, and it's also very good for a good hair rinse. They like it darkens the hair, and it's also very good for those who love taking tea or having rice or meat dishes. You can take it, and sometimes also it's a very good natural pesticide. While you're cooking your food in the evening, you can always put a few sprigs inside there, and it burns up and it chases away mosquitoes naturally, which is very good. Basically, with permaculture, you can never force someone. It has to come from within, because you have to look at the environment, what we have done to it. Most of the time, it's easy to complain about global warming or climate change and the like. Then later on, you do nothing. You become just what people call a keyboard warrior. But I think whether it's permaculture or polyculture or any other system that is sustainable that you're doing, you have to think not just about yourself, but also the environment. And you cannot force people. So if people can say, let's say for example, you eat meat, it's fine to eat meat, but you can say, I will eat less. And for example, if you don't produce any vegetables, you don't have to start permaculture 100%. You can start by saying, let me provide at least, let's say 5% or 10%. Let me grow a bit of kales or spinach for myself. So it's a process that it starts from within, but permaculture and any other sustainable system is not something you force on people. Because when you do that, you become authoritarian, and that is not right. So with permaculture, it's holistic. So it begins in the mind, then it spreads down to the heart, and then you do it, and then you try and encourage your family. You start it at the family level. And then later on, when your neighbors see what you're doing and see the benefits, then they'll be able to take hold of it and be able to do it. And in the long run, permaculture and other sustainable systems are the best way to go, because the systems that we have of, let's say, producing let's say commercially, is not really beneficial, because at the end of it all, you degrade the soil, and there's a lot of pesticides which are in the crops, which later on cause certain diseases, the cancers and everything, and we'll end up complaining. But permaculture starts from you at the household level, and it's something that can be done.